Welcome to Whisper Woods Stories. Today, we read 2 stories from r/backwoodscreepy. Let's begin. Our first story is from Vertigo Saint. What were in the bags? Hi there. It's taken me years to work up the courage to post this story to strangers because the events that took place all those years ago left me puzzled and, frankly, disturbed. It's perhaps best if I provide some background/context because it may help strengthen my story and people will hopefully believe me. I know that a lot of people claim to have a true story about strange encounters in the woods, and I don't want people to accuse me of making this all up, because honestly, I swear that this really did happen. It's not supernatural. It took place during the daytime, and the monster is very much human. When I was approximately 13 or maybe 14 years old, in 2003 to 2004, I went on a camping trip with my mother and stepfather and my 4 younger siblings. We were not a very well-off family. In fact, we were quite poor. I never went on holidays abroad, and we would always go camping, usually to the same campsite, which felt like miles away, but was in reality less than 10 miles from the city where we lived. We had been there a few times previously, and knew the campsite and the surrounding area fairly well. It felt pretty safe and familiar. On this occasion, everything was going pretty normal. I hated camping. My parents would always argue when it came to putting up our tent. It was pretty boring being in the woods, and I would normally be the one entertaining my siblings. I hated not having electricity, access to proper toilets and showers, etc. It could be quite fun looking back, and I do treasure the memories I have with my stepdad, who is no longer with us. Usually we would go on hikes or bike rides with my stepdad, using maps to charter our way to a small village, promising to get us all ice cream, which was a real treat as we never normally had it. On this camping trip, we were going to go on a 10-mile bike ride. Both my parents had their own bikes, along with my sister and I. My stepdad's bike had the small trailer where my 3 younger siblings, all under the age of 5, were sat. It was hard work going on these epic long bike rides, but I rather enjoyed being in the middle of the woods, surrounded by nature. We weren't in the middle of nowhere, but it was remote enough that it was inaccessible to public transport. Only forest ranger type vehicles could access the roads. They weren't real roads paved with tarmac, more like dirt roads, which were really only suited for bicycles. During all the times we went camping, we never saw any other vehicles go down these roads. On this day, we were all cycling down this road when suddenly we heard the sounds of a vehicle coming up slowly behind us. My stepdad is in front of us when he stops and tells us to move aside to let the vehicle come past. There's a sense of urgency and confusion in his tone as he's unsure why there's even a vehicle here. The vehicle passes us, and we are expecting to see a forest ranger vehicle. You know, like a 4x4 pickup or Land Rover type of vehicle. But instead, we see an estate/station wagon type of car with a long body and a large trunk with a window at the back. In the back of this station wagon, I see several large trash bags, and it's a very strange sight. I may have only been a teenager, but this is a sight that sets off alarm bells for several reasons. Number 1, this is not a car that is designed for going off-road in the woods. Number 2, as previously mentioned, we have never encountered any vehicles down this bike road before. Number 3, the person driving is clearly not lost as they didn't stop to ask for directions. Number 4. There are big black trash bags in the back of the car that look very suspicious. What I mean by this point, they are full and tied up very tightly. We could all see into the back of the car, and I didn't see anything poking out of the bag to indicate it was full of garbage. Number 5. The driver looked very rough, and I don't mean to sound rude, he just looked very mean. I can't recall his features, just that he didn't look like a friendly person that belonged in the countryside. He wore dark clothing. I think he was clean-shaven and had very short hair. I wish I remembered more about what this man looked like. As if this incident couldn't get any stranger, what took place next has left such an impression on me that I can still recall the sense of fear that I felt at the same time as I write this post. My palms are getting very sweaty and my heart is racing. The car drives on several more feet. Then the driver stops. For what feels like the longest time in my entire life, nothing happens. We're all just watching this car. My stepdad has told us to remain still. He's very serious as he's assessing this situation. Then, the car's reverse light comes on, and the car starts reversing up to us. My stepdad, who was in the army for several years, and was one of the toughest guys I knew, goes into full panic mode, and he tells us to run. We don't even get on our bicycles to ride. Instead, we all flee on foot, running with our bicycles through the woods until we find a railway bridge, which we had previously passed over. We never looked back. I have no idea if the man in the car got out to go after us. I don't know if he just continued driving. I have no idea who he was or what was in those bags. We never really spoke about what happened that day. I know it was something that seriously scared my stepdad because of his response. And it's left me frightened about who I might encounter in the woods until this very day. Our last story is from Anonymous. Weird experience deep in rural East Texas. In December of 2005, me and a few high school friends were back home from our respective universities. We were juniors at the time and started a tradition, winter break of freshman year, to visit random state parks/small towns and explore them, along with the occasional mischief that we would end up getting ourselves into. During these one-night trips, 3 of us would all sleep in the back of my Tahoe on a large mattress pad. This kept us safe from the elements and set my paranoid mind at ease should we be subject to any foul play. We decided this year to go to the Davy Crockett National Forest area. This area has many places that are extremely rural and desolate, which was exciting because we had previously found some interesting things in abandoned structures on our previous excursions. I had used up the rest of my university printing credits to print detailed MapQuest pages for us to use for navigation while we were visiting. The drive was roughly 2 hours from our hometown, Conroe. We decided to start the trip off in Lufkin, just east of the National Forest, to eat dinner and get a few things from Walmart. After dinner, we decided to mess around and get into our shenanigans. A few hours later, we found ourselves in Crockett, Texas, about an hour west of Lufkin. We planned on staying in a campground about halfway between the two cities, so had a lot of flexibility when it came to time. We explored random roads and went into a few abandoned buildings before getting bored and wanting to go somewhere else. By this time, it was 12:30 a.m. At this point in the night, I needed an energy boost, so decided to stop at a gas station in Kennard, Texas, which was about 30 minutes east of Crockett. I go inside and buy a few snacks, energy drinks, and a few cans of Skol to give us some fuel for the rest of the night. With a nice buzz from the energy drink and Skol going, we decided to get a little more adventurous and venture down FM 357, south of Kennard. We came across a few forest service roads that ventured off into rural resident roads and other country roads. I pull off on the side of the road to check MapQuest and match the cross streets we are at and give it to my other two friends to assist with navigation. After getting back onto the road, I notice it is 1:30 a.m., and we all joke about how we are miraculously still awake. I decided to head down to the next service road we came across. This is where things start to get pretty weird, and where parts of my memory are erased due to the sheer adrenaline I had at the time. After driving down a few more service roads and taking random turns, we get to a road that is much more narrow compared to the others. By this time, I get incredibly frustrated because it is almost 2:15 a.m., and I don't want to stumble into someone's front yard in a rural area in the middle of the night. I decided to slowly proceed down the road when suddenly I noticed a faint light in the distance. Great, I thought. Just great. I'm about to spook some random poor soul awake. About 30 seconds later, I can tell these are headlights, but they suddenly disappeared. I thought someone may have turned up ahead, but I was very wrong. About 10 to 15 seconds later, I see what appeared to be a brand new black Chevy Suburban. The second I put my high beams on, its lights turned on, and 3 men dressed in full suits jump out and sprint down the road past my car, almost like they were lifeless. They didn't even look at my car. As they were running past me, the Suburban suddenly shifts into reverse and conducts the fastest reverse maneuver I have ever seen. At this point, I unholster my G26, tell my friends to grab my AR. We were all scared shitless, and I had zero clue what we were about to come up on as we drove forward. Mind you, these were the days where cell phone coverage was non-existent in many areas of this region of the state, so we had no way to call for help if something happened. As I reached the end of the road, we came upon FM 357, the same road we originated from. How was this possible, I thought? It felt like we were just venturing further and further away from that road. And we passed a U.S. Forest Service fire station again on the way out, like we had on the way in too. I recently checked Google Maps for any U.S. Forest Service fire station off of FM 357 and cannot find any current or past historical data on it. The county tax assessor does not have any listings either. We got back on FM 357 and decided to book it to downtown Crockett, as we did not feel comfortable with sleeping in a campsite after what had just happened. I have since made sure to never venture down unknown roads without referencing GPS or maps. I am still processing that short but unsettling event. Where did those men come from? Why were they in suits in the middle of the forest? Where did the black Suburban go that vanished into the night? Me and my friends still occasionally talk about this incident, and no one can seem to come up with a sound explanation. The thing that bothers me the most is I cannot find any evidence of this road we were on. Google Earth software doesn't even have a road or satellite imagery that lines up with what happened, nor does it have the evidence of a fire station, or any structure for that matter. Thank you for listening to Whisperwood Stories. If you enjoyed, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe down below. Do you have a story that you'd like me to read here? Consider commenting or sending it to whisperwoodsubmissions@gmail.com. The stories in this video were read with the author's permissions. Thank you again for listening, and be sure to check out the original Reddit posts. Want to support me? Check the link below where you can leave a tip if you wish. And remember, don't let the shadows get too close.